Okay, we're back from this super short coffee break, which would rather I would rather call it not looking at the screen break. Okay. We will continue with our short updates from Cambridge, and I will go with what's new from Cambridge University Press, and this slot is for secondary teachers. So before we go to what's new, I'll just remind you that we already have loads of pictures with this hashtag. Thank you for sharing information, and thank you for actually taking the screenshots of your favorite moments. I like it the most when somebody makes a screenshot of a quotation, and usually it doesn't go anywhere, but this time it goes to Facebook, and maybe it will inspire somebody else for, I don't know, for teaching with more pleasure. So yeah, take part in Cambridge Teacher 2021 campaign to take part in the prize draw. And just a short note how the prize draw will be happening. Since we have loads of photos, we need to collect them all together, and we will do it tomorrow. So follow our Facebook pages to see who is the winner. And you still, while the conference is happening, you still can take part in this campaign. All right. Secondary teachers, Cambridge University Press and Linguist Company provide teachers with these wonderful resources such as Eyes Open, Think, and now Think goes with the new component, which is Think About Ukraine component that contains some topics that are required by the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, and also build on the materials, the Think materials that Cambridge already prepared for us. There are topics such as Kyiv, such as sightseeing in Ukraine, and so on. So these topics are really relevant for today's teenagers, and they were created by teachers for teachers. Prepare, our bestseller this year, I would say, and actually a bestseller of the previous 2 years, the new edition, and the bestseller of previous, I guess, 7 years, the first edition. Second edition, teachers really like this one because it combines exam preparation together with life skills, together with creativity and project work. And I guess this is the most, I don't know, the most modern, the most relevant course that you can find today. Linguist Company suggests Prepare a student's book, activity book, and one more component that goes for free. This is Companion for Ukraine component. And also why this course is so super modern and super relevant, because it now has access to Cambridge One platform. What's Cambridge One? This is a great platform that Cambridge University Press, together with Cambridge Assessment English, created according to the needs of the teachers. So for the last 7 years, we've been collecting feedbacks on the Cambridge Learning Management System, or CLMS, and teachers told us what they don't like about it, or they lack about it, or they want to be improved, and everything was taken into account. And now Cambridge One works faster, even faster than Facebook. You can register there easily, and it's easy to find all the books there, and it's easy to have access from your mobile phone, laptop, or tablet. To learn more, please contact me or my colleagues or Dasha, I don't know, also will help you with that if you have Prepare that has access to Cambridge One. Also, this year we started a new pilot project that goes with Prepare, and this is the Ukrainian edition of Prepare that went to 136 schools that are now piloting Prepare for the next year so it goes after Quick Minds. And this Ukrainian edition still has 20 units as it goes in the original Prepare. All the units are same short. There are culture sections and projects that are a little bit changed, or we added culture sections that double each other, but one goes for England or Scotland or the USA, and one more culture section goes for Ukraine, Kiev, Lviv, and maybe teenagers in Ukraine, and so on. There are life skills sections still there, review sections after each block, tests, additional materials, video, audio, everything you can find online is there for pilot project teachers together with teachers' books. How it works: it has personalized tasks. Here you can find projects for collaborative and teamwork. Grammar in Prepare is taught inductively, and to learn more about it, you can listen to some of the previous webinars. This is what life skills sections look like, and review sections that are divided into vocabulary, grammar, and all the language skills revision. At the end of the book, there is vocabulary and grammar reference, and also pronunciation boxes and pronunciation blocks in every unit. All the materials are designed according to Cambridge English Corpus information and English profile information. And what else we do for pilot project is, as you can see, we provide teachers with students' book and workbook, teacher's book that goes online, resources, yearly plans according to the curriculum, audio, video, and worksheets that you can also find online on the Publishing Linguist website. I will send the link during the presentation a little bit later. We provide teachers with webinars, workshops, individual work. At the end of the piloting, they will get the certificates, and as what we're doing now is conference with Cambridge experts that also help teachers that work with Prepare to work better. And we have proper communication with different channels. I'm done with my part and giving floor to Darina Sijuk, who will tell you how Cambridge Assessment English support teachers, those teachers who teach teenagers. Okay, Dasha.
And not only teenagers. Thanks, Tanya. Just to add that the new Prepare courses, new Prepare titles also have a very, very useful tool at Cambridge One platform. Something that Tanya didn't mention is the test and train component, which comes as a individualized, perfect preparation for Cambridge English qualifications, just impeded into the book. So you don't need to do anything extra, just direct your students there. That's really a revolutionary tool that we're hoping will be useful for you. And as Tanya said, a lot of work is done behind the scenes. So we're not just offering assessment tools or titles, but we are very keen on developing you further and helping you find out more about what we are doing and how assessment can help you in your everyday work and at your lessons. So the work we're doing to support teachers more with assessment is done now jointly with the Ministry of Education, as we realize that this year is the year that ends primary school within the new Ukrainian school reform. We were addressed by the Ministry of Education to with the request to train you and to inform you more about assessment standards and about how to assess young learners, and not only young learners, but how the assessment of school children differs from assessing adults. So the link that you can see on your screen, or just take your mobiles and scan the QR code in the right upper corner, you will get to our landing page, which we designed specifically for the project. That's the Cambridge Assessment Project for English teachers. We've designed the webinar series by Cambridge expert done specifically for Ukrainian teachers to tell you more about the assessment. So you will get 9 webinars from our experts to find out more about CFR standards, about how we assess, how you can use your course materials that you're using currently, and how you can create your own assessment, what things to include, and why assess. I think that's the most important, profound issues that we are raising. So I strongly recommend you register. That's a free project, and we invite everyone to sign up for the project. You will receive the certificate of attendance after each webinar. We are having monthly webinars. Already had one in early October, but the next one is planned for November 14th, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, all the information is there, so please go ahead and check the information there. And Tanya, next slide, please. And speaking of exams for teenagers and for mid-secondary, we already know that we have different qualification for different ages and different needs. What we really are very proud of is that we can offer you different qualifications, and your students can feel comfortable while taking our exam. So we have a special qualifications specifically tailored to meet the needs of your students. This is A2 Key for schools, which is normally taken at the end of grade 7 in Ukrainian schools. We want preliminary for schools, normally taken by students at grade 9 in Ukrainian school. And while they finish the school, they not only get the Ukrainian school leaving diploma, but they also get the international language certificates of the level B2 if they take B2 first for schools. This is something that can definitely help them in their adult life, because the certificates are lifelong and they can take them they can use them any time they need in their life. 86% of school management and teachers agree that Cambridge English qualifications help to build students' confidence. We suggest you try yourself and decide how you like it or not with your students. And we invite all of the teachers to become our official exam preparation centers. Again, we have a dedicated web page there, but we like long titles for the names of our landing pages and web page. So I've shortened them into the QR code. Just scan it and find out more. Anyway, we will be sending the recording of the webinar together with all the links that we are naming here. So you will receive this again in your mailboxes. Over to you, Tanya. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, unmuted. All right, so now we can move to our second part, which is teaching secondary teachers. and Olha Madylus will be our speaker for the second part. Hello, Olha. I just saw Olha posting this exact page. I think that would be really helpful. So how you can take part is written right on this particular page. Thank you for that. And yeah, we are encouraging you to take part in this campaign and prize draw at the end of the tomorrow, not at the end of this webinar, but tomorrow we will know the winners. Olha, I was telling a few words about Herbert, and now a few words about Olha. I think this is the speaker who knows the most about Ukrainian teachers and who's been in Ukraine, I guess, more than any other Cambridge employee, Cambridge speaker and Cambridge author, because 2 years in a row, and it was year 2017 and 2018, I suppose. 2 years in a row, Olha took part in our Cambridge summer schools, where she got acquainted to loads of Ukrainian teachers and learned a lot about us. And I guess now at her presentations, she can use it and to see how it works. Olha is also a CELTA trainer, Delta trainer, Cambridge University Press author for handbooks and photocopiable materials and exam materials and many other materials, and the author of great articles and blog posts for our World of Better Learning blog. And just a great friend, a person who supports all of us, and those who used to get acquainted with Olha know about it, because there is no birthday that Olha would miss. So thank you for that. Thank you for being so super involved. And I guess you can now start sharing your screen and your presentation and give us that warmth you always have in your heart.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That's just so lovely. It's so lovely to be in Ukraine, even though I'm not in Ukraine, if you know what I mean. But I have a bone to pick with Dasha and Tanya. Putting me on after Herbert is like putting me on after the Rolling Stones. It's a really hard act to follow. I was observing, listening to Herbert's talk, and I just found that so interesting, and to see all your comments as well. I'm talking about something slightly different, but I will be picking out some of what Herbert was saying and trying to link it to my talk. And I noticed the first thing in the chat box, somebody put serious fun, which is one of my great things. I'm always talking about having serious fun, and it's so lovely for people to remember that. And that really is very true to link to Herbert's talk about what is memorable, how do we learn? Anyway, let me get down to work and start talking about this topic, combining exams and life skills. And exams are getting more and more popular. Exams are everywhere. And I'm not just talking here about Cambridge exams. I'm talking about any exams that you prepare your students for. And when it comes to secondary level, teenagers, tweens as well, the 11, 12-year-olds, all of them seem to be in classes where exams are quite important. So this is my menu for my session today is what I really want to look at. What do students need to do well in exams? Try to link that as much as possible. Hopefully you can tell me at the end if I've been successful, but linking that to life skills and how life skills are really, really integrated with exams, because for many people they see them as very different, and really talk about different things we can be doing in class to motivate our students, because you all know that motivation is something that I'm very, very keen on. So let me start with a question, because I want you to be, you're very good at the chat box. So I'm going to ask you a question here, and you can think of lots of different things here. What do you think could be the dangers of exam classes? What could go wrong in classes where you're particularly focused on helping students to prepare for an exam, either a Cambridge exam or a local exam? So we've got here Anastasia saying fear, nerves. What else can happen? Oh, focus on grammar. Lots of fear. And lots of anxiety here. Lots of stress. Okay, this is really interesting, because what you're saying really, really does link to what I'm going to be talking about. So well done. Lots of anxiety and stress. And Helena's even stolen one of my titles there as well. What is dangerous about labeling a class as an exam class, I think, is that we kind of get tunnel vision. I don't know if you know this expression, tunnel vision, that you're just looking at one thing. You're looking at the exam and you stop thinking about lots of other stuff. So tunnel vision, and I shall come back to this, that the exam becomes everything that you're focused on. Another really nice expression, we have this expression called washback effect. Washback effect means that everything you do in class is affected by the fact that you're preparing for an exam, so that you are thinking about the exam all the time. And this becomes, it's just something that just takes over, that it's just about, oh, we've got to pass the exam, we've got to pass the exam. Nothing else very much. So for example, if you do a fun activity, as a teacher, you might feel guilty because you're wasting time. And time is something that a lot of you are mentioning in the chat box. But also the students may think, well, why are we don't have fun activities? Fun in the exam? Fun and exams do not go together. So this is the negative effects of something that you are aiming for. And somebody already mentioned this, I didn't pick up who it was, that students can get very demotivated in exam classes because they may not feel that they're doing very well. And I just really want to pick up, oh dear, I think the police are coming for me, pick up something that Herbert said, and he was talking about practice tests. Now, when Herbert was talking about practice tests, he was talking about the kind of tests you do in the course book. So those particular types of activity that he was showing, the broken sentences, the missing words, that you are practicing and practicing that target language. It's not about doing lots of practice tests that we would do for PET-CET, where students would do lots of them and then they're doing them too early and they feel very unmotivated because they get poor results. So just be clear in your minds that there's a distinction there. And lots of you have said lack of time, because there are time limits in the exams. So they feel they have to prepare to be so time conscious. But also as teachers, we kind of think, oh, I only have 3 or 4 hours a week. How am I going to cover everything? So this is a particular issue. And something that I have had students say to me when I have an activity for them, I have a nice interactive, communicative activity that looks like a game. And they'll say, why are we doing this? Is it in the exam? So this tunnel vision, this washback effect limits what we can do. And what happens is that we quite often wave goodbye to a lot of the other things that are very important. So things like English for real life, these lifelong skills, work skills, which they may need, creativity, fun, all these other things. So what I want to do is I want to stop at that point, because this is quite a negative thing, and to really examine what students need to do well in exams. And Tanya Savchuk is saying that, you know, exams are difficult, but if we can analyze what do students really need to be able to know and do in exams, this will be helpful, I hope. So here's my question. What do students need to know to be successful in exams? I'm talking about English language exams, not chemistry or biology. So what do you think they need to know? Type it in the chat box. What do you think students need to know? I love that Irina said, don't panic. I think that's very important. I'm just sitting here reading the chat. So a lot of you are talking about the procedure, the actual type of task they have. And that's very, very important. So these kind of exam specific skills, how to use your time wisely, how to prepare yourself. What is the question asking you? But what very often people say, and quite a lot of you are saying this as well, is that students need to know grammar. They need to know grammar. And this is changing a lot, I believe, just because I know the kind of things you're saying. But what is it about grammar that students need to know? And I think it's really, really important to think about this difference between use and usage. And traditionally, books and teachers would drill into students grammar rules. And what we need to think about is very, very importantly, yes, they do need to know the structure, but they also need to know how we use that language. If they don't know how to use it, and Allah has called it practical grammar. I like that. That's a really nice way of describing it. How do we use language in practice? And so I think this is a really important thing to think about. And it's actually quite funny because Herbert used the same example that I'm going to use. And he was talking about the present progressive. I call it the present continuous. Doesn't matter. If we think about something like present continuous, I am standing, he is shouting, this piece of grammar. I'm going to ask you a question here. What is this grammar describing? Is it describing an action in the present, the future, or the past? Because the label says present continuous, so it can be the present. Anything else? Lots of people are saying the present, some people are saying the future. Okay, so we're noticing that even though it's called present continuous, it actually could be different things. So, for example, it could be the present. So at the moment, here I am at my desk, I'm sitting at my desk. An action happening in the present. But as many of you have said, it's also used for the future. So here we go, a future arrangement. Don't get jealous, ladies. This is just my current young boyfriend. I'm meeting my boyfriend tonight is an arrangement in the future, something I'm going to do. It's an appointment. It's very near future. It's very sure. I'm definitely sure I'm meeting him tonight. It's the future. Okay. Nobody put their money on the past. Nobody put. Oh, Jana has said it would use it for when you're annoyed about something. He's always saying silly things. So we can also use it for that. Well done. But can we use it for the past? Yes, we can. So take, for example, the situation at the moment. As Tanya was saying, I used to travel a lot to Ukraine, maybe 2 or 3 times a year to work with teachers. But I can't travel to Ukraine at the moment. So I'm doing a lot of webinars these days. Now think of that. I'm doing a lot of webinars these days. This also refers to the past. These days, at this point in time, this period in my life, which covers the past, the present, and the future. So this is just an example of how we have to be very careful when teaching grammar, because present continuous is not just used to describe the present. It has a lot of possibilities. And as Helena's saying, it's ongoing changes. Natalia's saying period that is now, and now is not just this second, but began in the past and will continue. Hopefully, I won't be continuing a long time in the future of doing webinars, however nice they are to do. So that is a very important thing. So in preparing students for exams, grammar shouldn't be this narrow description. A lot of people say vocabulary. Yes, vocabulary is super important and we need vocabulary. I think vocabulary in many ways is more important than grammar. But it's not about single words. It's not about learning a list of words, 20 words to do with the environment. What students need, and even from very early on, even from ket and pet levels, is how these words combine. So things like collocations, lexical phrases, phrasal verbs, idioms. We cannot communicate at all. We cannot get a message across or understand unless we learn words together. So I've just got some examples here. So collocations, things like far and wide, how these words, salt and pepper, up and down, how we collocate words, how they naturally go together. Lexical phrases, and again Herbert was talking about how a lot of language now is described lexically. So expressions like, for example, guess what? These are really useful expressions to learn. And if you think about writing, there are lots of phrases that are very, very useful. Phrasal verbs, idioms, all of these things are important and they figure a lot in exams and real life. So reading, what do you know? Oh, students need to know how to read. But what does that mean? Oh gosh, I read all the time, and it's every different type of text I read in a different way. So we read for gist. That's how I read the newspaper. For specific information, that's how I'm going to be reading some of these books that Herbert suggested. And also one of the things that we read for is that we match things in our heads, that we read something and we think of another way of saying it. So we recognize synonyms, we recognize near synonyms, and we think about how we rephrase these things. Another really important part of reading is, how do we read without actually understanding every single word? And we don't understand every single word. I mean, I read lots of books where I don't understand every single word about neuroscience and psychology, but how do we bridge that gap? And how do we match ideas? So all this kind of reading that I've got here on this screen is the type of reading that students need in order to do well in exams. This is all exam type activities. And I think as teachers, it's really important to know that. It's really important to dig deeper, because you're saying things like understanding, full understanding, but what does that mean for us? And the students need to know as well. The students need to be aware of this. So things like writing, what does it take to be a good writer? So these, and all these things I'm showing you come from the Cambridge handbooks. And if you don't know about the Cambridge handbooks, they're all available online, and I'm sure Dasha will send you links to them. Find out what it is that students need to be able to do. I'm just going to look at the other skills for the moment. Listening. So yes, students need to listen in an exam and understand, but what kind of things are they having to understand? So they have to listen for things like attitude, opinion, specific information, details, general information. But they're also not just listening for something, they're listening to. So they're listening to lots of different voices. They will hear different accents. They will hear people speaking at different speeds with different intonation. The music will be different. So listening becomes quite complex too. And of course, speaking. They have to be able to speak. And speaking, you know, it was one of the things I've just got an example here from a B2 level exam, what kind of things they need to do. And what I'm finding really interesting is in all of these things and all of the different aspects, the different skills, there's a lot of these things coming up where you have to describe, to give an opinion, to evaluate, agree, disagree. So you have to recognize that. When you're listening, you have to use it in your speaking, you have to read it, you have to write it. What we're looking at is functional language. And this is really important. And this goes back to use and usage. How do we use language to communicate? And this understanding does not take place on the surface. You have to understand, you know, if I say that's crazy in response to your suggestion, what does that mean? That means I'm totally denying your opinion and saying I don't agree with you. So understanding how language works is what is being tested in exams. And I find this really interesting, not so much in Ukraine, because I find Ukrainian teachers are very clued in to this. But, you know, I travel, well, I used to travel, I now travel in this strange situation online to many countries around the world. And teachers still seem to think that exams are about knowing about language, and that there is a divide that, oh, no, we don't need to communicate because students need to be able to do the grammar. They need to be able to show their vocabulary. But the grammar and the vocabulary does not exist in isolation. Every language interaction has a reason. So this is when we come down to this key word, understanding, and also Natalia saying context. Why am I reading this? Why am I saying this? What is this about? And I think this is a really important thing to be able to understand as teachers, that this is what the exams are doing. And I think the functional aspect of exams is really very, very up to date. And even things, you know, like Cambridge exams, people say, oh, Cambridge is very serious and it's very traditional and it's over 400 years old, university. Excuse me, but the exams are about language in use today. So what do students need? Well, they need to understand and use language within the idea of it has a purpose. What is the purpose of this? They need to understand the intention. What do I mean by this? So this is this whole idea here that you're coming up with, understanding, but what do they need to understand? And also they need a lot of practice to memorize language. And this is what, excuse me, I'm just recovering from a bad cold. Herbert was saying this as well. Where do we get the ability to remember? We haven't learnt language if we don't remember it. And so the varied practice is important. The memorizing, making those connections, those synapses, making emotional connections too is very important. So I'm going to just stop there with the exams and then just talk a little bit before I marry these two ideas about life skills. So, fingers on keyboards, what would you say are life skills? Any ideas? What are life skills? First person who writes a life skill will get a sweetie when I next see them. Oh, suddenly lots of them have come up on the chat box. And communication is coming up the most. And what do we communicate? We communicate emotion. We communicate ideas. We don't just say the grass is green. That is not communication. Interaction, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I don't know why I'm talking to you really. You know these things. But what is interesting is how do we marry all these wonderful things, the critical thinking, the collaboration, expressing yourself with exam preparation and exam success? Well, if you don't know, you can find out, but I'm sure you do, because a lot of your course books now are underpinned by the Cambridge life competencies. And all these things you're saying are here. So what Cambridge is doing, exams and the press, is trying to make sure that everything we do is linked to life competencies, that the learning that students are doing is real life learning. And sometimes it's not obvious to see this. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say also, this is not just Cambridge, but I've seen this in national curriculums, and I've seen it for years and years in national curriculums. Is it part of the Ukrainian national curriculum at secondary, this idea of critical thinking, communication? Have you seen it? Is it there? Yes.
It is. Yes.
Yes, yes. I knew the answer was going to be yes, because it's almost impossible now for any country not to have it in their national curriculum. But what has been bizarre for me, and I've been teaching for over 40 years now. I know, but I keep going. I usually Salor keeps me well lubricated in my joints, but I haven't had any for a while. But in these 40 years of teaching, I have seen this in national curriculums. It's not new. But what the problem has been is, how do we make sure that what is in the curriculum is happening in the classroom, is actually something that the students are experiencing and learning from. It's just, there's no point just writing it down. And I am very lucky to have been teaching for 40 years. It's been the best life ever so far, and hopefully it will continue to be so for another 40 years. Anyway, why are these life skills important? We need to develop life skills in order to be successful. We need to have critical thinking to make decisions. We need to communicate, to have relationships. We need all these skills to do well personally, professionally, and spiritually as well. So I believe that I'm not just an English language teacher, I'm an educator. When I have a class of kids in front of me, I'm not just developing their language, helping them to pass an exam. I'm helping them to become better at everything they do. And I think, you know, language is important, but life success can be seen in many different ways. And I also think, and this is something I'm going to say really, I was going to say bigly, but that's not a word. I want to say this loud and clear, that I think students need to be aware of this. For many years, I mean, I remember when I did my CELTA course, and it wasn't called the CELTA then, but we would practice doing activities with students. But the idea was that we knew why we did it, but we didn't share this with the students. It's really important to share with the students why you do something. So when you do an activity that involves communication and they say, well, why did we do that? It was just drama, or it was just a game. They know that they are developing really important skills. We talk about it, we make it very apparent. Don't underestimate even the little ones. Students always engage better if they understand why they're doing something. So, where's the link? Exams, life skills. Well, you don't have to read this all now. You're going to get a recording of this, so you can pause it, but you can also find this online. If we look at the types of life skills there are here, we can very quickly see that there are links to this. So you can see, sorry, I'm just going to get rid of this. So for example, reading. So critical thinking, how are ideas linked? Do I understand that this is, they're the same idea, they're opposing ideas? Very important in reading, very important in understanding everything around you. Climate change, COVID, all these things, understanding what you're reading about to really see the connections. Writing is very important for exams, but lots of us have to write as part of our jobs. We need to create things to be not just cut and paste, using different resources to find ideas to make something original. I know we have a poet amongst us, Julia, who creates the most amazing writing for herself and for creativity and to share. This is part of life. This is not just for exams. Listening. When you listen to people, you understand a lot about their relationship by understanding the kind of language they use and the register. Excuse me, how formal are they? How relaxed are they? You know, do they say kids? Do they say children? We really pick up a lot of detail there. And speaking, also developing that communication ability to speak to different people, to have confidence in speaking. And the kind of confidence that we develop in English, you can see the same knock-on effect when students use their own language. And these are developing these skills that are very important. And all of these are life skills but they're all exam skills too. You know, when you do your speaking part of the exam, the test, and you have to speak to the examiner, they want to make sure that you are using language with confidence, you're clear, you're communicating your ideas. And just another example here, which I think is very interesting also, is how do we become successful in life? You know, what do we do? I can tell that you are really interacting with this event, and you're asking questions, and I'm sure a lot of you are taking notes. You are taking control of your own learning. And we don't need, that shouldn't just be something that students pick up on their own. We can help them with this. We can definitely do that. Okay, so how do we combine them? I think that we need students to really understand the value of the tasks they do. So for example, when I first went to work in Hong Kong, some of my teenagers were like, oh, we're not going to play games, they're silly. And they felt undermined by doing fun activities. So what I started doing then, and I learned from this, was just to explain to them why they were doing this activity. How were they using their critical thinking? How were they practicing communication? So really analysing the tasks with them. And I got to the stage where I would say, well, so why did we do this task? And they would say, oh, because it helped us do this, it prepared us for this paper in the exam. That's important. So when we're learning language, we're not just exploring the language at the kind of superficial level, this is the present continuous, but we're exploring the motives, the intentions, the functions of language. And we're helping students develop real life skills. I'm going to show you a few examples. And I do think success is not just about exam results. You know, that if all we do is pass an exam in June and that's it, we've got the piece of paper, that's great. But if that hasn't helped me, all that work hasn't helped me to develop other things, you know, and what about the students who don't pass, who don't do very well? They should still be able to take away a lot of things from their learning. So my point is very basic, actually. Life skills are exam skills. These things are totally connected. If we see that exam skills are not just superficially knowing a list of words, knowing grammar rules. So here's just one example. I think I don't need to prove it to you really, but when you come to critical thinking, if you look at this example here, I'll just let you read it. This is exactly, sorry. Something went completely crazy there. This is exactly what you need to do in a reading exam. So that was just my example, sorry. Okay, so just a few practical things. What do we need in the classroom? We need to raise awareness. First, for ourselves, to be aware of what life skills are, to be aware of what exams are testing, to really be able to look at that exam and say, whoa, these kids need to be able to communicate, to understand, etc. So we need to really combine this. And it's not going to be difficult when you have the right material. So if we look at, for example, social responsibilities, and one thing I love about the Ukrainian national curriculum is this focus on culture. So what do we do when we have that, when we combine these things? We have activities that talk about culture, that culture is there, it's something we talk about all the time. And I'm totally in tune with starting with your own culture. So before you talk about British food, you talk about vareniki, you talk about salo, you talk about holubtsi, you talk about all, oh, that's making me hungry. Talk about all the yummy, yummy Ukrainian food that I miss so much. And if we look at, I'm just going to look at a few ideas from Prepare, these kind of activities that allow students to do things like research, do mini presentations, do all these things, are really, really useful for them in terms of developing those life skills and getting ready for exams. Little presentations will build their confidence, but they'll also become more autonomous and more mature in their approach to learning. So when it comes to communication, we need to use that right language, we need to be clear. So these kind of activities of giving presentations, looking at what a presentation is about, are really, really useful. And again, if you look at this, you know, some teachers might go, oh, it's life skills, it's not exam skills. Same thing. Okay, I just think I've got one more example. So here's just another example of these kind of things. So when you see anything that says life skills projects, look at it and think about, oh, actually, this is exactly what my exam preparation students need. So just a quick word about group and pair work. Fundamental to developing life skills, fundamental to developing exam skills, is making sure your students are working together as much as possible, communicating, thinking, challenging each other. So you've got real communication, real negotiation, preparing things and building their confidence. They must not rely on us. And I think, you know, we need to, this has been a chance actually, although it's been a horrible 18 months, to rethink what is the purpose of school, what is the purpose of learning, and what is the purpose of exams. So let's just take a while to think about how all these things connect and what is useful for our learners. Maybe a few of you don't know about my blog. The photograph is actually from Pilipets, which is where we did our summer schools in when we did them in Ukraine, which were just so much fun. But the important thing is not the photograph, is my blog address. Lots and lots of ideas on the blog. So please, please do have a look there. And Olha is saying there, communicative methods, interactivity, this is all that we need, and lots of ideas. Your course books have this, but if you need more, you can go to the World of Better Learning, you can go to my blog. But what I'm going to ask now is if there are any questions, and I shall stop sharing my screen so we can see all these questions, and we can also see the lovely Dasha, and maybe Tanya's still with us. So, okay, so let's see, do we have any questions? Oh, Oksana wants more webinars, yay! There are lots and lots of recorded webinars on the World of Better Learning, so I'm sure that Tanya and Dasha will send you the links to these things, and you can see lots of them, as well as the ones that the girls, sorry, that does, I hope that doesn't make, I'm saying the girls because I'm older, but the lovely young women who we're looking at will be preparing. Some people don't like to be called girls. When you get older, you do. If somebody calls me Dievuchka now, I'm like, oh.
Okay, we personally miss you a lot in Ukraine.
I miss you too so much. I'm trying not to cry because it's just so lovely to see you. And we won't tell them about the Cambridge cocktails, but okay, any questions? Any comments? Okay, right. Here is a really interesting thing, the practice tests. I think, you know, practice tests can be very useful in terms of just introducing students to the format. At the very beginning, when I said, what do students need to know about exams? You said mostly the type of question, the format. So a practice test is really good for students to see, okay, I need to do this. This is the kind of question, it needs me to do this. Why don't they do them in pairs or threes when you first introduce them? They don't have to be done under those exam situations, but they do need to know what the exam looks like. But as Herbert was saying, you know, the testing can be micro testing. So what you get in course books now is you get kind of end of unit tests, or, you know, regular tests to practice that language. So we need to balance, what are we testing? Why are we testing? And the worst thing we can do is lead to a situation where everyone is doing really badly in the tests, and then they just go, I can't do it, it's impossible. So it has to be success oriented, so step by step. And, you know, with the practice exams, yes, they can see them, but they can take them home and do them. It's not, we're not examiners, we are teachers. That's really important. Oh, there's another Tanya, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing too many questions, which is nice, because hopefully I've been very clear. I don't know how you measure gratitude. I've got a ruler here. I don't think you can measure gratitude, but it's just so lovely to see you all. And if there are no other questions, I'm going to go and make another cup of tea and leave you ladies to carry on. So I send you all my love. And I really, really want to see you again soon, so I can hug you. Not just Dasha and Tanya, all of you.
No.
Yeah, hoping we can make it shortly.
I hope so. I hope so.
Thank you very much for the session. It's always lovely to see you. No matter if you're doing the presentation or just in a chat with us, always lovely. And please be back to Ukraine once.
It'll be my #1 destination.
Oh, and since it's available, we will travel to you too. Once we're not in London, so
yes,
we should do it again.
Please do, please do. Okay, I'm seeing all the thank yous, and I thank you too, and I'm seeing lots of hearts and kisses. So thank you, everybody. That's super.
All right, and we have another, I'd say, 5-minute break before we go into the last, but definitely not the least, session on teacher development courses and qualifications. Yeah, so let's be back and start at 2:30. Sorry.
We have 5 minutes break, so
just we're muting and
yes,
by this.
We're back in 5 minutes.